Okay, right now all the focus is on this public school superintendent, Des Moines, Iowa, that was discovered to be an illegal immigrant, making almost $300,000 a year. Anyway, I just happened to grow up in that school district. It's the only one I ever went to from kindergarten on up. It's the only district I was in. I've still got a lot of friends there. I have a lot of insight to this because I was politically involved up there too, and I know something about how the teachers play with that. So we're going to get into this because there's a lot that you aren't hearing about this yet. I've got some background, some details, and some fun input. It's worth hearing. Welcome back to What They Don't Say. And once again, we got another topic that they don't say. This is going to be so weird, though, getting through this because we're not done. We're still discovering things about this guy. But the very first thing that people should think about is what was the guy's game plan? They know that he ran from ICE, so he evaded police on a pullover. At that moment, he knew he was done. So that means that he's probably been waiting for the other shoe to drop. What was his next plan? What was his escape plan? He had cash with him, he had a gun, he had a hunting knife. The guy was prepared to go Rambo somewhere. Was he planning on a violent confrontation? I don't think so, considering the type of gun that he had, but he was ready for one. Was he going to embark upon a life of crime? What was he planning on doing? He had this $3,000. Was he going to Costa Rica? Was he going to find a country with a non extradition treaty? He already had a plan of some kind in place because he had the money and the weapons with him. He was going somewhere. He knew that at any moment this could all blow up on him. I almost wish that he would have got away that day because right now we would be involved in a nationwide manhunt for this guy. We'd be playing Where's Waldo with the Des Moines School Superintendent while this immigrant from Guyana is trying to hide in the black communities around the country. What was his getaway plan? He had to have an escape plan. The guy knew it was coming, and that's why he was prepared. The moment he evaded police, he knew the show was over. So, welcome back to another episode of What They Don't Say. Hey, I hope you guys will like and subscribe. This is a new channel. We just need to boost, and I promise we'd always bring you what they don't say. And by golly, we got some good stuff here because of my background in the area. First of all, one thing people got to remember about this guy, yeah, he was hired by the Des Moines School Board. However, he had already worked in multiple school districts across multiple states. He came from out of state when he was hired in Iowa. Now, the hiring process, what they do, they've got a board that recommends a bunch of candidates. The school board picks through them, and then it goes to the Iowa Board of Education Examiners. That's the people that give teachers licenses. Okay, so he'd gotten through all of those steps. Nobody in the process did their job. Do not tell me that none of these people knew about the guy. They knew. They knew every step of the way. They had to know. One thing the education system knows a lot about, and that is visas, because there's so many student visas, and all of these people have been in colleges and universities with a plethora of students that were there on student visas. They know all about it. They know visas expire. They live and breathe with visas from the time they go to college. Everybody in the system at every level was aware of the visas, the visa programs, and the fact that a lot of visas get overstayed. If you're going to be in that industry, that is naturally one of the things. If you wanted to do your due diligence, if you cared about the quality of the departments you were building, if you cared about the integrity of the institution you're a part of, if you care about just doing the right thing, part of the process is you're going to check that visa. It should come naturally to them. Half of them had roommates that were here on visas. They know all about it. This was ignored on purpose. They had to know. But what's really weird about this, the guy's visa, okay, we know he's from Guyana. We know that he was an Olympian. Except he claims all of these degrees, including a master's. Well, there's a lot of problems with his history. First of all, no one really knows how old this guy is. Depending on what records you look at, whether his early employment records, education records, the records from when he was arrested before on a weapons charge out of state, out away from Iowa, and when he was hired in Iowa. Depending on which record you look at, the guy was born in either 1970, 1973, or 1978. All the records differ. We don't even know how old the guy is. Okay, he had a social security number. That had to be illegally obtained. Why don't they check that? They used to check in the packing houses. We said before it was called ICE, it used to be called INS, Immigration Naturalization Service. They used to come into our factories if there were people using the same social security number. Usually they would spread it out, and they'd be in different factories in different states using the same number. The feds used to track that. During the Reagan years, they tracked that. And if more than one person was using a social security number, or the social security number didn't make sense, boom, they would come in and they would check it. Okay, that's a minor thing, but the visa should have been caught. There's no excuse for that. However, the woman that runs the school board that hired him, the big boss of the school board, that's this lady right here. By now you probably know her name is Jackie Norris. She had been Michelle Obama's chief of staff in the early years for just a little bit. But she was in there. The reason why was because she has been heavily involved in Des Moines Democrat politics all along. As long as she's been around in Des Moines, she's been involved in their politics. I'm not talking about just being a registered Democrat voter. She is actively involved with organization and recruitment. Do we really want radical activists running our school systems? That's what we've got. We got it nationwide. We're going to get into that a little bit more. But this lady, she's just a hardcore Democrat activist. She's got no business being within the education system because she can't do the job without bias. And that is important. However, as soon as they got busted, this was so funny because I watched all this on the local channels. As soon as this guy got busted trying to flee into the winds, their statement was, well, we don't know any details yet. We're still trying to find out. We're looking into it, but we put him on paid administrative leave. Paid administrative leave. After he was already in cuffs and out on his way out of county, they were putting him in a remote jail to begin with. Paid leave. At his salary rate, that was about $6,000 per week. They were going to pay this guy $6,000 a week to sit in jail. They were happy to do it. They were still defending the guy. The governor of Iowa makes about $130,000 a year base salary. This guy was making more than twice what the governor does per year on salary. She serves the whole state. This guy is running around one school district. That's it. One school district. Twice the pay of the governor. I tell you, the pay systems throughout these schools really needs to be addressed because there is way too much money going to these administrators. I don't care if they are legal. There's way too much money going to these administrators for the crap education they're delivering. It's especially bad. The only reason they took away his pay and put him on unpaid administrative leave was because they started pointing fingers at each other. Right away, the head of the school board, when she had down there taking him off leave, she's like, well, you know what? I didn't know there was anything wrong. How the heck should I know? I wasn't even here when they hired him, by golly. That doesn't matter. She took it over. She's responsible for these employees. So she points her fingers and says, well, the people of the Iowa Board of Educational Examiners, they approved him. They're all saying that now. So they go to the Republican governor, Kim Reynolds, who has her own political aspirations, and they say to her, hey, Miss Reynolds' office, hello. Yeah, we'd like to talk to the governor and see what she's got to say about it. And this governor is a camera chaser. She's always running in front of the cameras, any excuse she gets. All of a sudden, she's unavailable. However, her office let us know that she is staying on top of the situation and she is staying in contact with the law enforcement officials and the school board. So don't you worry, she's staying on top of it. Of course, she didn't have any kind of official statement because she had egg on her face. The office of this guy running the Des Moines School Board, okay, he's a superintendent. His office is just a few blocks from the Capitol building. This guy operated right out in the open in the capital city of the state within blocks of the State House. There's a Republican majority in the State House legislature. A lot of those people have their own kids in that school district, and not one of them caught this. And they're critical, and rightfully so, of the Democrat machine that put this guy in place, knowing full well that he wasn't right. But everybody else let it slide too. Nobody looked into the guy, even though they all knew. The guy was active in the community. He was at the State House multiple times on different issues involving education, and not one of them did the due diligence. None of them. I mean, that's really something. So here we got this guy. Now, not only are his birthdays weird, he claimed all these degrees. There is no evidence of any of these degrees. They can confirm one online degree that he got, an EDD. But all these masters and everything, there's no evidence of any of it. If they had simply looked at his employment history, what he was claiming, and what he was claiming he was doing with his life, and the degrees he was working on, the college he said he was attending, it wouldn't have made any sense. The guy would have had to have been twice his age. He claimed that he was going to school full time, working on all these multiple degrees. But at the same time, he's got in his resume all these lofty jobs that he had along the way. He was working in all these different situations, plus going to school full time and working on masters and volunteering at foundations and working in civic projects. They didn't even check to verify his education. No, because they wanted him. Why did they want him? They played some tapes from when he was first hired, and Jackie Norris, the Michelle Obama operative that is now in charge of the Des Moines School Board, she was talking about him. And this is a praise she gave him early on, and she has continued to give the man, was that he is transformative. She gave a speech and she was talking about how they wanted to change the way kids view education and the way kids think. Yes, you do want to change the way they think, don't you? You slime-balled Democrat operative, darn lefty nutcase. And that's what they were doing. They were changing the way these kids think. It was DEI. He was a DEI hire brought in to be transformative, to convert it to the wokeness that they were successful at and that they still don't have out of the system. Removing this guy did not take any of the woke. People of Des Moines, you still got to do it just like the rest of this nation does, because right now, nobody is cleaning this out of local schools. It is too entrenched, it's too embedded. But another thing about this guy is the weird Social Security number, of course, but he's registered to vote Democrat. Now, they told us all along, illegals don't vote. Well, here you've got one on the national stage, once again proving, yes, illegals vote. The guy was in bed with the Democrats. I mean, literally in bed with the Democrats. But another claim that he had made in his resume was that he'd received the Principal of the Year award from George Washington University. Well, guess what? George Washington University has never given a Principal of the Year award to anybody. It's not something that they do. There was no such award. He obviously didn't receive one. Everything about this man was and is a lie. Now, why is this a problem for the school board? I mean, okay, the lady, she's running the school board, but she's also running for the Senate. Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa has done 2 terms in the Senate. She's been in there 12 years. She's going to complete her 12th year. She's not running again. Boom, right away, there's Jackie Norris. That was her chance. She's never held political office, The school board is it. But she had the whole Democrat machine behind her. And she gets all the impetus that comes with it. She gets all the friendly media. She gets all the party donors. They're all in bed together. She knows them all anyway because she's been so active within the party and all the events and everything. She's been a common face with every bit of Democrat activity, including all the presidential and senatorial campaigns and everything that come through. She's active in all of that. They all know her. She was already the shoe-in. Well, now she has to run for Senate with this hanging over her head. This is a dark cloud on that lady that's just going to rain on her from now until Election Day. I would not be a bit surprised to see the Democrats have to pull her out because this is so bad. How's she going to recover? Of course, the Democrats won't care. They think that the guy's qualified, that he's the best thing since sliced bread, and they're making it right about slavery because they hired a black man. Okay, well, whatever, all their kumbaya, touchy-feely stuff sounds good, but this is a black cloud hanging over her. At every campaign stop, people would be asking her about this, unless it's an all-Democrat crowd, in which case they think she's a heroine for doing it. But how do you get out from under something like that? This probably destroyed her political aspirations. Let's just hope. So when you see this woman interviewed, or you look at her in this picture right here, and you see that sick look on her face, that look isn't just because of the fact that this guy got busted while she was in charge of the school board that oversaw him. She feels sick because she knows that this situation has destroyed her political aspirations. She had goals, and every campaign stop, her competitor, whoever's running against her as an opponent in the senatorial race, all he's got to say is, she couldn't run a school board. She made a national embarrassment out of the Des Moines public school system, and she thinks she can help run the country. She can't even run a school board. No, this woman is done. Thank God for ice. You guys scored a double and you didn't even know it. This woman, goose is cooked. But one of the things that the Democrats do better than the Republicans by far is the grassroots organizing, the grassroots recruiting. Yeah, they're getting nuts, but that's because that's who they are looking for. They target the audiences, they get who they want, they get their nuts. One of the ways they do this is through the protests. They have people work the crowds at the protest, right? Now, this is going somewhere. Stay with me here, okay? These No Kings protests that they've been having, it's recruitment events. They know that Trump's not going to quit because they protested. So what they do is they go out, and believe me, teachers are heavily represented in these crowds. In previous episodes, I talked about the time that I spent as working as a spy inside the Democrat recruitment and campaign efforts because I knew these people were good. They put a machine together that is on call all the time. They call these people and say, hey, get your team, go here, go there. They've got all the phone numbers, they got the names, they got the activists, they got the people that are ready. The Democrats are good at this. And they use those protests as recruiting campaigns. They go through the crowds. I've talked about this before, but they go through the crowds, they work the crowds, they get the names and addresses, they find out what people are interested in, and they welcome them in and they bring them into the fold. And then when they need activists, they've already got the contact information. Boom, they're ready to go on a moment's notice. It's the Democrat shock force. They put them on buses, they make the squeals on wheels. They've got their teams ready. This time, all they had to do was call them and say, hey, get downtown, because they got a big team on the ground there in Des Moines. They go out and they recruit these people. Well, when this deal came up, right away they wanted to have protests. They organized protests immediately the day that this guy got popped. They had a protest at the federal building in Des Moines. How good is that? I mean, when you talk about organization, the Republicans never throw anything together that fast. In all the years since the Vietnam protests made political protests a normal part of life, the Republicans have never caught on. They've never caught up. The Democrats did this, in a matter of hours. They had a couple hundred protesters at the Des Moines Federal Building. Now, what's funny about that is the crowd swelled after the teachers got off of work. Yeah, go figure. The crowd is full of teachers, it's full of educators, it's full of people that are in bed with the education system and the Democrat Party, which is one and the same thing. So they tell them to show up with their signs. They must have, because these people were bringing used signs down to this event. It's like they got done with another protest. They threw the sign in the garage. They said, grab your signs, come down here. So we got people marching around in front of the federal building protesting because this illegal immigrant got arrested. Except the signs say, no kings, free speech. What the hell does that have to do with this guy getting busted for being an illegal in a job? You know that $300,000 a year salary he had, that was over twice of what the state governor is paid. The state governor in Iowa makes a basic salary of $130,000 a year plus the bennies. This guy was making, they've been reporting it's between $250,000 and $300,000 depending on which source you use. More than twice of what the governor of the state makes. For the superintendent of one school district, there is so much money going to waste in these school districts on these overpaid administrative positions that it's just a crime in itself. One group of people we haven't heard from yet is this Iowa Board of Educational Examiners. So far, they've been able to dodge all the press calls. We haven't heard anything from them, but nobody in the process did their job. What about the citizens? Do you realize that nationwide, only 5 to 10% of voters show up for school board elections? This whole school board, it's an all-female school board, and it's DEI. They tried to represent every kind of race because it's all color-coded. But nobody goes to these school board elections. If conservatives are so upset about the quality of the schools, why aren't they doing the first most basic thing you would do to fight back? And that is to make sure that you've got qualified, competent people on the school boards. When 5 to 10% of eligible voters are all that shows up for school board elections, that tells me there's a hell of a lot of conservatives sitting it out too. And that was a frustration I always had as a parent. But one of the things about that Des Moines school system, that went bad back when I was in school. I was class of 76. Going from junior high to high school, the transformation in that school district was just off the charts. It was unbelievable. It's like I didn't even recognize them when I came back in my sophomore year. It was tragic. I had 4 kids, and there was no way I could let them go to those schools. I could not subject them to what I knew had become. I knew people 10 years younger than me that had gone through school, and that was when we had the big Southeast Asian boat list. Remember the boat people? These kids were sitting in their classes, and since none of these Asians that suddenly flooded the schools knew any English, they would get their grades by how well they helped the Asians. We didn't even have Hispanics back then. What has happened to the quality of education when the teachers quit trying to teach the good kids, and they've got the good kids teaching English to kids that shouldn't even be in the class? Don't think that this is the only school district in America this is going on in, because this guy that got arrested, Ian Roberts, he had worked in other schools. And another thing, one of the first things he did when he assumed his position there was he passed a regulation within the school district that they were no longer going to consider somebody's criminal history when they hired him for the school district. He decided they weren't going to look at that. Now, wasn't that a red flag? Nobody asked any questions because they all knew why he was doing it. They just didn't know that Trump was going to get in and ICE was going to come knocking on the door. That's when it all blew up on him. Right now, if that had not happened, this guy would be happily serving, transforming the students and teaching them how to think, what to think, just like they claim were their goals in the first place. I haven't heard them say anything about the quality of the intellect of the kids. They just talk about teaching them transformative views. How to think, what to think. They don't talk about the quality of the skills they need as they move on to their own lives as successful, productive citizens. We got to get this right. We got to do better with these schools. Nothing is going to be done to fix these schools as long as the National Education Association and the state, local, federal teachers unions are out of the picture. These are just Democrat operations. They are fully staffed, top to bottom, with Democrats. It is a wing of the Democrat Party. It is not independent. It is not local to your community. This is an active and highly successful wing of the Democrat Party. You cannot fix schools. I don't care what anybody in the federal government says. Getting rid of the U.S. Department of Education, which they aren't doing yet. So far, they're just cutting it down and pulling a little money. Okay, that's one side of the fight. That's like nipping around at the heels while the giant runs around busting up the store, right? Because the giant that's busting up the store, the giant that's dismantling our schools, is the teachers' unions and the National Education Association. It's the teachers. They're united in Democrat organizations. If you don't clean out these Democrat organizations, you're not fixing anything. They are the ones that covered for this guy, from a Michelle Obama operative right on down through the rest of the DEI system that they put in place. Everything about the education system is about furthering the Democrat Party. That is how they got that guy, instead of one of the tens of thousands that are qualified in Iowa, much more so than this guy that was making $300,000 full benefits per year. I just wish we'd have known where the guy was going to go, because the chase would have been a lot of fun as he went hop, skipping, and jumping from country to country, state to state. I wonder how far he could have gone. I sure wish we'd have been able to see that, but oh well, Trump had to come along and just blow the whole story for us. Those ICE agents did a little too good. They caught him too quick. They busted him as he was running around the woods. He forgot and left his pistol in the truck. He was so scared. But he was running around the woods in his shiny shoes and one of his pretty little school suits. Oh well, it is what it is. I wish they'd had cameras on all of that, but as a matter of fact, there will be body cams come out. I wonder if they'll ever see them. But right now, we're going to hear a lot more about this guy. We're going to find out about the degrees that he never had, the birthday nobody knows about. Watch for this, because it's coming. And what's going on in the school district down the street from you right now. If it wouldn't have been for ICE, we'd have never known. What are they getting away with close to you? There are other illegal immigrants in the education system. All of it is the operative arm of the Democrat Party. It is all Democrat activists. There is no significant conservative or traditional patriotic American representation in our education system. It is so dominated by the Democrats, and it's the radical Democrats that are doing it. We are not represented in the school systems that we pay for and send our children to. What else are they hiding from us? What other priorities do they have besides being transformative? It's got nothing to do with teaching our kids. We got to get this right, my friends, and if we do, maybe God will continue to bless this great country of ours. Thanks for listening.